You haven't frozen or anything like that, have you?
Nope. It's in
Nope.
here.
Yeah. So it's still twirling, and that is 45 seconds it's been counting for. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Here we go. Oh. We're live.
We're live. I've just put my phone in silent.
I know mine just flashed there, So we definitely know we're here, So that's the good news,
That's we're live and kicking. We're live and kicking. Well, Justin, how's you getting on this week? Busy.
Busy. The usual half a dozen rejection letters, but sure, it can't be helped.
I hear they're looking for cleaners up the Devonish Hotel.
Well, listen, I'm not volunteering for that one. I used to work in the Opera House as a student job years ago, and they give us plastic gloves, and I said, "What are they there for?" I says, "Well, we do have cleaners, but they'll definitely be soiled ladies' underwear because Joe Dolan's on or somebody like that." And I thought, you're winding me up. And I thought, and honest to God, it was rank. I mean, if men did it, it'd be like Hannibal Lecter's cellmate, and you'd be arrested. But it was awful.
I can imagine, but no, it's been dead funny all week.
Is that making the news in America? Or are you just watching it?
Oh no, I'm just watching back home, but it's dead funny. Yeah, it's the picture of your doll, Cameron Diaz from Something About Mary. No, I wasn't. I laughed. On the menu at the Devonish, you can order a roast.
We're going to get Zuckerberg, please. No, Marty, please. No.
Oh, it's dead funny. Congratulations to Ireland on the rugby. Yay, Ireland on the rugby.
Well,
beat Wales 31-7, was it? And then Scotland. That's 4 times in a row now they've beat Ireland for the Calcutta Cup. You understand, Justin?
I thought that was England and Scotland for the Calcutta Cup.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. England beat Scotland. That's 4 times in a row now.
I know that. Yeah.
So I know a couple of people were at that match. That was 30-21.
Right.
So yeah, watched the both of them earlier on there.
I know.
So yeah, all good.
So yes, I know it's one of those weeks.
Yeah. Aye. We missed last week, so I've had a whole pile of stuff to go through. So we've sort of picked out stuff, but we've talked about some.
But you almost regret not missing last week's, don't you?
Aye. Albuquerque. Don't go to Albuquerque. The homeless were shooting at the chief of police last week. It's not a particularly pleasant place to be. I heard it used to be a lot nicer than it is today. But yeah, we're now back in El Paso. A lot safer, a lot nicer. Weather's nicer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Weird one. There you go. It sort of lived up to his Breaking Bad reputation then, didn't it?
Yeah. I can see why they filmed it in Albuquerque. I'm going to have a wee drink here. This is I bought this Maker's Mark. It's 56.05%. This isn't the best of these Maker's Mark that I've had. The best one I had was the one I had got in New Mexico, Ruidoso. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. But anyway, we talk later on about some of the whiskey definitions in the US, because there's different rules over here. There's that's a straight Kentucky straight bourbon. That's a bottled and bond.
Jesus, this is going to confuse me even more than pot still and single malt and blend. This is going to blow my mind. What do they do about the things that aren't whiskey? Because you've had things over there that aren't anything. Where do they come under? Other category?
Aye, we'll talk about that later on. Because there's just a whole pile of stuff, so much regulation, pages and stuff. But anyway, but we got cracking with some of the news.
Would just give me a minute to say hi to Peter Stewart. Remember to comment, like, and share. William McLennan's in tonight. There you go. Good evening to you as well. And Frank Hearn's in. Evening to you. Yes, we only miss 1 week. We have missed weeks before, but sometimes we'll reward you with a bonus episode as well. I feel there's bonus episodes coming up, don't you?
There could be something coming up whenever we get back home.
Yep.
Back home next week, guys. Back home this week.
Declan Boyle says hello. Linda Cox says hello. Remember to comment, like, and share. That's the best way. We are live. We are live. We are
Yeah.
here. It's not recorded. So there you go.
We are live. So that's why whenever things go wrong, we're waiting place. But anyway, so first off, there's lots of new stuff happening this week and last. Dingle have a new launch of a new whiskey. They seem to have loads of new ones coming out, different for different parts of the year. The old Gaelic calendar, if you like. This is a new one that's coming out. I hate it whenever they do Irish because I can't pronounce it properly. I make myself sound like a right tit. It's Erach, I think that's how you pronounce that. And you can buy tickets for the launch of this. This seems to be a new thing that some of these guys are doing. It used to be they had like a press launch where they invited people down and did a launch, and it was basically try and get the media in. I think they've now realised they get plenty of media anyway, like of ourselves, for example. So what they've decided to do is not bother with that, and they'll sell tickets. Now, the tickets for this are €22.42 or something, it says there. And you get to go down Palace Bar on 7th of March, and you get to have the new product with Big Dave Cummings, Big Hairy Dave. Congratulations, Big Dave, because this week he had a son. His wife gave birth to a son, so good on him. And we salute.
And we've chewed the fat with Fionn in there in the Palace Bar of the Wee Small Hours, and it's basically like the South version of the Crown, isn't it? It's
a very nice bar. Yeah, it's lovely.
Nice, lovely.
So yeah, Dingle guys doing good stuff down there. So yeah, that was a nice thing. You get tickets, nice product launch. Go down there, €22. Sure, it's not really a big lot of money, and no doubt Kit Charles will be there. He's not. If he's not driving a truck somewhere, he'll be there. But yeah, so that's a nice thing to have.
It is. So yes, that's a good one. I would pronounce that Earache, but then I don't want to get threatening letters from the Gaeltacht. You see, there you
go. Next one is Short Cross, our good old friend David and Fiona down there. They have a new distillery bottling. Fill your own down at the distillery. It's a pot still. It's 64% malt, 36% unmalted, 6-year-old, aged in virgin oak and bottled at 46%. Wow. So yeah, that's a nice one. Those guys do excellent stuff.
Yeah, you know, I've seen them setting up for that when I was down there, and it's people love that. People love filling your own.
They do. I thought I had a price for it, but I don't.
I think off the top of my head it's 60, but that's off the top of my head.
Don't take that for granted, but it might be £60. Yeah. But yeah, they do things a little bit different. The whiskey and stuff that they do is really, really top class, and the setting and all that. It's a beautiful place. But yeah, so that's a nice new one from them.
Yeah, I think they lost a couple of trees in the storm in the estate as well, actually.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah,
I wouldn't doubt it. But yeah, so if you're down that direction, pop up in, see if you can get filling your own, and that'd be a nice one to get. Probably the most significant is the inaugural release of their own spirit from Rowan Co. Yeah. Now, this was during the week. We were supposed to be down, but none of the two of us could get down to it. Well, obviously, I wasn't going to get down, and
I missed a free meal, and I could have ate your meal as well. I know that's
bad. You were doing the radio. There was a chronic shortage of DJs, and
I had Shane Lynch to meet. But there you go. Yes, it looks good. It looks very good.
Yeah. Now, Laura Henney, who's the head distiller down there, this is her. Seen her whiskey, if you like, coming to fruition. That's her there. This is quite a complicated thing because it's the Solera method. Now, we talked about the Solera method ages ago. It's basically where you have a cask or a number of casks and you let it go down a certain amount and you fill it up with other spirit. And it's this sort of chain of things. So it's sort of evolving complexity, if you like.
I know. It always reminds me of what was it, Diamonds Are Forever or something, or one of those James Bond movies where Sean Connery says the slur is the year of the.
Well, moving on swiftly, but it's quite complex. Now, you'd have to go on and find out a bit more about it, but I'll run quickly through it. It's finishing its first fill bourbon, refill bourbon casks, 4 types of sherry casks, re-char casks, and it's basically it goes down until there's 4 casks, and then they use this Solera method to layer on complexity moving forward. So, but this is their first spirit of their own. Bottled, non-chill filtered, bottled at 46%, €85 a bottle. I know loads of people will be turning around saying, "Oh, it's only a sort of whiskey," but yeah, it's quite complex, and it's their first release of their own spirit, so that'll be a nice one to have.
Yeah,
Roe & Co, they have they've had a mixed bag of stuff out. The 2020 cask strength one was a pure port cask Bushmills, essentially. Fabulous. If you can pick it up at auction, it's not that expensive at auction. Well worth getting your hands on. I've polished off a couple of bottles of it, and it's super whiskey. Super whiskey.
Yeah, but if you're down at Guinness, it's just up the road, so it's a must to do it.
I mean, but they're still at the minute they're only sort of quietly doing their own thing, but at some point you'll expect to see an awful lot more of them. Diageo, it's owned by Diageo, Roe & Co, big name, former big name in Irish whiskey, so it will gain traction. So nice to see them having their own spirit out. So yeah, good.
Lovely.
Now, speaking of Roe & Co, on International Women's Day, the 8th of March, at the Roe & Co distillery, there is an event. Now, it's done by the Women in Irish Whiskey. Now, this is a website that's been set up by Anne-Marie Kelly and Heather Clancy. I've met Heather. I don't think I've met Anne-Marie. But anyway, this Women in Whiskey is a kind of group to promote more women in what they're saying is a male-dominated industry. They actually have a couple of figures there, which I'm quite pleased about. I think even though it is quite surprising, that 37% of the people in the Irish whiskey industry are actually women, which is probably a bit more than I thought. Mm-hmm. But it's still seen as a male-dominated industry. They're wanting to just sort of it says if you go to the About Us page, our mission is to foster professional development of women across all areas in the industry, distillation, supply chain management, admin, marketing, and more. Our goal is to facilitate events driven by female thought leadership, networking opportunities, mentorship programs, and personal development endeavours. So they have a list of things that they want to do.
Well, we've done a previous show about women in whiskey, and there's been women in whiskey since the beginning, from the get-go.
Yeah, and I mean the likes of Margie Samuels, who did the dipping of Maker's Mark. She came up with this. This is genius, and I mean, it's still seen as very much a male-dominated industry, and it really shouldn't be, because lots of innovation came from women, lots of innovation came from men as well. But I think it's probably a nice thing that women support each other in. Because there still is, unfortunately, the macho asshole. You know that I'm a whiskey drinking man,
like the one that tried to tell the American golf pro how to swing.
Did you see that?
I did. I thought it was fake, but it's actually real. I know.
I've been playing golf for 20 years. He says to her, it's the bit where she looks at the camera. Okay.
I know, but did you see how she hit it? She hit it way out of the.
She's a professional golfer.
Straight as a die. I mean, I can't even hit the bunker if I try.
No, as I say, but no, there is still that element, and having something like this is a nice thing. So I'm sure if you are interested if you're not in the whiskey industry and interested in joining it or whatever, and you're maybe wanting some advice as a woman, maybe a nice thing to get in contact with them. I think Well, maybe try at some point and get the two ladies on, and we can have a wee chat about it maybe at some time.
I have to tell you this: my dad and my uncle were in a classic rally once, right?
Uh-huh.
And they're in a pretty old car, but it's like compared to the average modern car, it would be souped up, like it would.
Oh
It,
yeah, yeah,
it
yeah.
would go like the
Probably
clappers.
light as a feather too.
Yes, it would. If you crashed it, you'd be dead. And this woman and a granny in a family saloon overtook them. And when they got to the freaking start of the rally, it was one of the rally drivers' wives, and she obviously could drive herself because
Oh,
she was literally. I mean, I'm not going to name the person because it's too long to do anything about it. But literally, she was driving the family saloon with a granny in it, faster than 100 mile an hour, and they had trouble keeping up. But there you go.
yeah, yeah. But no, if you're maybe a woman who's working in whiskey and you want to drop them a line, the website is there in the on the side, and there's become a member and so on and so forth. So that's a nice thing. That's 8th of March in Rowan Co. So yeah,
Jesus, you'd be down. You could be on the 7th and 8th. You could just stay in Dublin for a couple of nights and go to all them things.
Get down, yeah. Go to the Dingle thing and then stay over and go over to Rowan Co.
Yeah,
Why not?
Good.
Now, another news article flashed up for me this week. This Swedish hotel is home to the world's largest whiskey collection. Now, this caught my eye. I read the article, which states on the headline, if you bring it up there, Justin.
Yep. Yeah, there we go. And there we go.
Now, it states quite clearly at the top, this Swedish hotel is home to the world's largest whiskey collection. Hotel Skansen on the Swedish island of Åland offers guests a staggering 1,179 different whiskies to choose from. Now, this pricked my interest because last year I was in San Diego, and I went to the Whiskey House in San Diego, which had the largest collection of whiskey in the world. And I thought, my memory serves, I think it's more than 1,100 odd that they had. They certainly had the period. So this article quite happily provides a link to the Guinness Book of World Records. Now, do you want to hit the link there, Justin? If you want to just hit the link,
Yep,
takes you through to this page, which, if you scroll, this is the Guinness Book of World Records. If you scroll down,
hold on to find it. Yep, is that it?
Yep, if you scroll down, now this is the link that they provide. It's the Whiskey House with 2,467 whiskies. So basically rendering the entire article a load of horse shit. The Swedish hotel does have a large collection. Will not take away from that, and absolutely fantastic. But this is why you don't believe headlines, and you certainly
It probably was in date in 2001 when I don't know.
No,
it's not right.
That's still what I said. The whole article is just absolute bollocks. They have a lovely whiskey collection. Good on them. Applause, applause, applause. But the actual article provides the link to tell you, no, it's all bollocks. so aye.
What surprises me is the amount of content we have generated over the past 3 years, because we've already spoke to this guy when you were in San Diego last year.
Oh yeah, but that's someplace. Oh, if you ever get a chance, if anybody's ever in San Diego, you have to go and see this place. Just out of this world. Mark, who owns the place, lovely, really down to earth guy, just says we just buy everything we can get our hands on. I mean, over there, you're picking up that they had Short Cross, there was Colognes, there was Bushmill, obviously the big guys, there was Copeland, I think was there. It was all these little small Irish distilleries that just happened to be in this place in San Diego. It was just bizarre. But yeah, so the article caught me eye, pricked me interest, and then I found out, yep, that was right. It was full of shit. But anyway, such is life.
I've put the links up there if you want them to read them yourself. Remember to comment, like, and share. We're live on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitch, Telegram, Twitter, wherever you get your podcast from. And same time, Saturday nights, 10 p.m. So always comment, like, and share, folks.
Now, we were talking there about women and whiskey. You might as well talk about the the biggest of the lot. Coming up, there she is. Helen Mulholland, who's down at Lochgill, the Athru, who'll be doing the Paddy when Paddy's out obviously at the minute, but she's doing blending for Paddy, and they own that brand now. She's also got a bit of a side job now. She is on the assembly, I think it is they call it, or the board, or the blending panel at that Last Drop Distillers. Now, she worked there before. She did edition number 32 with the Last Drop Distillers. And I think she moved over as a sort of permanent member of the advisory team. And they're very lucky to have her. And
they're doing up the entire estate down there. They're doing conservation work at the big
I know. Not the Last Drop Distillers. Last Drop Distillers not doing it. But that's right. It's a huge project. I was talking to Helen the other day. They had the public consultation, and I think the first planning application has either been passed or it's in consultation or something. Down at Lochgill, that's a 10-year project.
It's like 3 hours away from here, isn't it? 2.5 hours. It'd been a great thing to go to that. Yeah.
Oh, it's a fair drive, but I mean, there's nothing public open at the minute. But they're down there. They're distilling away. Massive project. But you'll hear an awful lot more about them. But she's over now to Last Drop Distillers, which, if you go onto the web page, they tell you it's all about bringing really high quality bottlings to market. It's quite high end stuff, but they're all very small releases. So the last one, the one that Helen worked on, was number 32. Where's it? 32-year-old, that one? Yeah. Number 32. It was done with Louise McGinn of JJ Corey, and a 32-year-old single malt Irish whiskey selected, married and finished by the founder. But Helen worked on that as well. So yeah, that'd be a cracker. A really cracker one to have. But yeah, as I say, so she's moved on to that. Well, she's not moved on. She's still at Lochgill, but Last Drop Distillers, she's now part of the assembly or whatever, something like that. It's assembly or a consortium or I don't know, tribe, something like that. Anyway, but she's there.
Now,
I'm over here. An event that I would really, really love to have been at. Some of our very good friends were there in part of this project. I've banged on about this for weeks and weeks and weeks. The creator, the wee creature, the wee weird creator that is our Finone. This is all part of the project. This is the Boan Vintage Mash Bills project. €250 to get involved. Last night there was an event down in Boan Distillery. All part of it for like €20 or so. It's €29. We talked about it last week or 2 weeks ago. You got tasting like 9 different whiskies. Listen, a lecture from Finone. These are the mash bills, the original ones. If you haven't seen these tasting packs, there's only 500 of these boxes made up, and they contain all the different mash bills that they have done, part of a 7-year project, and it's all tied in. It's all the brainchild of Finone, the wonderful, the amazing Finone O'Connor. Just let me open this box up. All of these wonderful mash bills, and this was tasting them as they've sort of come of age. Now they're not going to be out for another 4 years. I think it's 7 years they're looking to keep them in. These are the original new makes. The flavors and differences and the nuances and stuff, and these alone were out of this world.
they were or even I thought so. Very, very distinctive collection there.
Yeah, and the ones that were tasting last night, going to taste them just as they've come of age, really, as the sort of they're 3-year-old. But all of the tastings, I mean, these are the tasting cards and the mash bills and where he got them from and so on and so forth. Honestly, for €250, Jesus, man, this is for absolute nothing. Now you can see there's Brendan from Cologne down. Liam and Shane from Two Stacks were there. Kit Charles was there. Surprise, surprise. There's a picture of Kit there if you see him.
There he is.
There he is, large as life, twice as ugly. Yes. One of the biggest fans of Irish whiskey that you could ever imagine. But yeah, I mean, another amazing night from what I'm led to believe, and hopefully we'll caught up. Now I hope Michael Colwell doesn't mind, but I clipped a couple of pictures from his Facebook. If you bring that up full screen, if you can.
You can, yeah.
Those are some of the mash bills that. So, for example, what one's that? Mash number 2. So that is the ancestor of the 4060 single pot still mash, and that's 55% barley, 40% malt, 5% oats, and they all go through. If you have one of these packs, you get to see exactly where they all came from, where he discovered them at, and so on and so forth.
Fantastically well curated.
I'm just really, really disappointed I missed that, but I'm led to believe the next event might be a bit closer to home for us. Just when I put this tasting pack together. But yeah, it's just an amazing project, and I know there's loads of people who probably, I know we've got people who watch this in the States and all that kind of stuff. If you haven't signed up for this project, do so, because you'll get the online stuff, you'll get the book, you'll get the bottle of whiskey at the end of it, you'll get all of that, and you get to buy in, and you'll have access to Fanon, which is, it alone is worth the money, in my opinion. But yeah, a fantastic night. Looked like an amazing thing to be involved with. But we'll catch up with them again.
Good, excellent. We're halfway through the show tonight. It's
Justin, there was loads of stuff that I couldn't even talk about. Middleton Very Rare 2023 back in the shops again, because they've produced so much of it, they can't sell it. They're charging it at such a ridiculous price. There's so many of them at auction. Still holding quite a nice price at auction if you bought them at when they first came out. But we're in 2024, guys, and they're back in. There's Bushmills is for sale on Amazon at the minute. Bushmills 10 for £25 a bottle. I'm sorry, but if you're spending £25 on a bottle of whiskey, or if you're thinking of buying something of decent quality, you're going to go a long way before you can find a bottle of whiskey that is that good of quality for that little price. New thing that I wanted to sort of talk about, I'll maybe do that next week. The Whiskey Exchange Cabinet, which is quite a nice thing. They're going to be releasing new whiskies onto what they call the cabinet. They hold them, you buy them. They can be traded if you want to trade them. And it's all done on a blockchain so that everybody knows exactly who owns it, or everybody can trace where it's from.
Yes.
All traceability. This is going to become much more important once people start to realize how many fake bottles of stuff there is floating about. Lots of them are going to, and Irish whiskey's still playing catch up with this, but the likes of bourbons and stuff, Pappies, so many fakes. Blockchain, that's a different thing. Once it's bought, it's registered, everybody knows where it is until somebody opens it and decides to drink it, and then that'll take it out, and they'll know how many of them there is. It's all traceable. That's a really key thing. I might check that out this week a bit more.
Okay.
Bourbon reform bill going through in Kentucky. It's going to limit the amount of vintage bottles people can sell, which is going to really shaft a lot of people who make money buying and trading bourbons, trying to bottles of whiskey. Some guy, he sold 600 bottles last year. Not be allowed to do it.
There'll be a black market for that then, surely.
Quite probably. But it's going to be made illegal, so you'll not be able to do it legitimately, which muddies the waters for guys trying to sell.
Seems a bit like bureaucracy to me.
That's exactly. Scotch whisky exports actually fell below pre-pandemic levels. There's so many different things. Wrexham Football Club's being sponsored by a thing. Did you know that a guy that's running against Joe Biden in the Democratic Party is actually a distiller? There's a distiller could potentially become president of the United States. A guy called Dean Phillips. That's just a whole mountain of different things. But yeah,
madness.
I could have talked.
But Hearth had something on today as well at 4 p.m. Yes,
again,
missed it.
We'll try and get caught up.
I was actually visiting somebody in a hospital. Hearth have said hello tonight. Linda said hello. Patrick, Andrew Tolan, Jemmy Jameson, Shane Hughes, Janice Pelican, Trevor Watson, Johnny Gill, Declan Boyle. Sometimes I forget to read out everybody else's names, so don't worry about it, folks. I know not everybody likes to say that they're watching because, well, maybe they're at work or something like that there, or they're shy and they're worried I'm going to slag you off or something like that. I would never do that. Marty always slags people off. He's slagging March off.
A couple of festivals coming up. The Cork Whisky Festival is coming up very shortly. The Campbelltown Festival is not that long. Waterford are actually holding the festival on the 29th of June down there. So loads of stuff happening, loads and loads.
I mean, there's other stuff we're not allowed to mention is happening as well.
Oh, I know.
I know.
Yeah. There's stuff.
I nearly said it there.
Oh no,
because he mentioned it.
Don't mention anything. What they're right there. I don't have any great importance. Now, because I'm in the States, this is from our good friends at the Tobacco Barn Distillery. Give me this T-shirt.
Very nice.
Yeah, there's loads of definitions. Right.
This is going to blow your mind, folks. By the way, this is like something from I don't know. From
they talk about the land of the free, and America's a great place. We love America, but they have lots and lots of rules and regulations about various bits and pieces and things. Now, in relation to alcohol, the department. Where'd that wee thumbs up come from?
I don't know where we don't even know where that wee thumbs up comes from.
Anyway, the Department of the Treasury, Alcohol and Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau. They sound like a real fun bunch. Where's the wee thumbs up? Anyway, this is basic mandatory labelling information for distilled spirits. Now, this document, and Justin's telling me that you can't pull it up full screen, but you can get it yourself. You can go on and have a look at it. I just want to talk about some of the stuff that's in this. A practical guide. Now, I'll give you an example. Right? This is bottled in bond. This is not covered in this manual. So if ever something says bottled in bond, I'll tell you what that means in a little bit. This is a straight Kentucky bourbon. So what does that mean? What happens when you bring in an Irish whiskey? So this is Cologne. Picked that up in the shop the other day. Batch number 1 of the rum and raisin Cologne over here. This is with Irish blend. Crappy old blend, really. Anyway, so this kind of gives you a overview of what lots of this stuff means. Now, it goes through a whole pile of guff, basically, at the start, telling you how to, the sort of index where everything is. And that just covers like the first 6 pages. Then you go on to what the legal thing is, the Federal Alcohol Administration Act 27 USC 201, etc., etc. It tells you all where the implications from, brand name, general features, what was on the label, right? Tells you what size you're allowed, what it has to appear on it. So, for example, definition, the specific identity of the distilled spirit has to be there. Minimum 2 millimeter for containers larger than 200 ml. Minimum 1 millimeter for containers that. So it's all down to the basically the has to be a certain size. Okay, so for example, if you
Tell me the page number and I'll try my best to bring it, Marty.
If you go down to page 11, for example.
11. Okay.
On page 11, now if you get a bottle of whiskey, so we'll just lift this Maker's Mark. On the back of the bottle of Maker's Mark, you will have the distiller's name and also required for domestic spirits, the name and address of the bottler or packer or filler and or the distiller and or the blender. Or the maker or preparer or manufacturer or producer. Basically somebody who's taking ownership of this. And that must appear on the label preceded by an appropriate explanatory phrase such as bottled by. So on this, it's signed by Rob Samuels of Maker's Mark, and it says distilled, aged and bottled by the Maker's Mark Distillery Inc., Laredo, Kentucky, USA. So you have to have someone basically taking responsibility for this. I assume that this comes from Prohibition when people were putting out all manner of stuff, and they said that they had to somebody had to take ownership of it. So that's why you'll always see an address and a name pretty much on all these bottles.
But most people are going to do that anyway. But whenever people source the liquid, sometimes they don't like you to know where it's from, but they have to say where it's from then.
No, did you see this? Not really. Not really. Because you could put down a name and say that it's made, I'm Marty McCauley, Texas, El Paso, Texas, give an address. But the whiskey doesn't have to be from there. It basically just has to be me saying that I'm taking ownership of it. Okay. Basically, if something goes wrong, I'm the one in the picture for it.
Well, to my mind, you would be and you wouldn't be, but there you go.
But that's why lots of people have their names on these. That's kind of a slightly different thing than you would get back home. Now, for all whiskey, if you nip down to page 21. 21.
Yep.
Now, page 21.
There we go.
Now, statement of age is required, okay? Now, statement of age is required for all types of whiskey aged less than 4 years. Okay? So, what that means is, if you have a whiskey that's less than 4 years of age, you have to put how old it is on it. So, excuse me 2 seconds to pick the ball. So, if you pull me back on screen again, Justin.
Yep.
That's why this bottle of El Huapo, which is a whiskey made here in El Paso, it says on it, it's aged for at least 1 year. Okay? Because by law, they have to tell you that. Whiskey doesn't have a minimum age, but it kind of has a minimum date that it has to be declared. Okay? Now, it goes on to say that a few other bits and pieces. If you skip to page 22, number 14, it says there's state of distillation applies only to whiskey produced in the US. How are you going to say what state it's distilled in if it's not distilled in the US? I don't really know what that applies. Anyway, this applies to all of those types of whiskey: bourbon, rye, wheat, malt, rye malt, corn, straight bourbon, and straight rye. Straight wheated, if you scroll on down, basically all of those different types of whiskey. Okay. Now, the state of distillation must be specifically identified on the label, and this is in bold type, if the whiskey was not distilled in the state identified in the required name and address statement. Okay? So, if
I'm lost already, Marty.
But this is how complicated all this is. And I think it's kind of an art that these guys can make it sort of seamlessly appear on a label and not, it doesn't seem to make, they make it look pretty good.
But
So you, by
nobody
law,
in this day and age is going to spend a fortune in branding to sell stuff and not say who it is or what it is or how good it is or what's in it or how it's done.
yeah, but the problem is, imagine this was in Ireland, that you had to state on it that this was distilled in County Antrim. Well, everybody's going to know it's Bushmills. And a lot of the distilleries don't want you doing that. So, but by this, you have to do it. By law, you have to do it.
Right.
So if it's there has to be a name and address, someone taking ownership of it, and then it has to say. So, for example, on this was distilled in El Paso, in Texas, Tennessee. This is Tennessee as well. Okay.
Yeah, it's traceability, but I just think,
but it has to be on it. By law, it has to be there. Now, in terms of state of distillation, all has to be on it. So the format, state of distillation, may appear as a separate statement, e.g. distilled in Maryland, and fill in the blank, or with the class designation. For example, it could be Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. That can appear on there. That's all legal. That's above board. It's just a bit odd. There's just a number of different permutations of this. Now, down to page 29. I mean, I was going through loads of this stuff this week, and it's just such a fry of your head. It really is. Down to page 29, where it gives you definitions for the various types of whiskey. Now, I know that the fine print's there a little bit. It's kind of hard to read. So, for example,
you'll be able to read that on well, if you're watching it on your phone, which most people do, it'll be too small, but it's as big as I can make it without it being silly. But if you watch it on a TV or computer, it'll be big enough to read all the characters. But the link is there too if you want to flick through the report with us or download the report for yourself.
Now, the Peter's asking, is this my bedtime reading? My head was mangled trying to get through a lot of this stuff this week. Honestly, you've no idea. Bourbon, right? Bourbon has to be 51% corn mash bill. It has to be bourbon has to be whiskey produced in the US at not exceeding 80% alcohol by volume, from a fermented mash of not less than 51% corn and stored at not more than 62.5% alcohol by volume in charred new oak containers. That's exactly what it says. It doesn't say cask, it just said new oak containers, right? But it goes down. Rye whiskey's pretty much the same, but then they change it for corn whiskey. If you go down to corn whiskey, whiskey produced at not exceeding 80% alcohol by volume, from a fermented mash of not less than 80% corn and stored in oak containers, not more than 62.5, in used or uncharred new oak. You're not allowed to store corn whiskey in a charred cask. So bourbon has to be in charred. Corn isn't allowed to be in charred.
But this stifles experimentation, surely.
Well, it kind of. Why would it change? I mean, what would be the difference? It just sort of changes. I don't know. It's just weird. It's just weird. But this is the one that gets a little bit different. If you go down to straight, now it's a little bit further down. It said straight whiskey. Now, straight whiskey, you'll see it on this Maker's Mark bottle. And you see it all the time. It says straight whiskey. Now, what does it mean? It actually means straight whiskey is aged at least 2 years, and it has to be bottled at 50%. Distilled at no more than 80% ABV, aged at least 2 years. It can be 51% of any of the grains. So if it's rye, it has to be 51% rye. But straight whiskey can be blended 2 or more whiskies, provided that they are from the same state. So basically, it means it's just basically falls within those definitions. So it doesn't really mean a huge amount, if I'm totally honest.
Okay, I'm going to throw the cat amongst the pigeons here, Marty. How did that guy do the 50-state blend then?
Because he can do that, but just it's very specific of what he's allowed to put on the label.
Right.
He's allowed to put down thing. I mean, the straight whiskey basically just means it falls into the criteria of that, and that it's not much different, but it has to be aged for at least 2 years. That's basically the big difference there. Okay. Now, a whiskey is defined, and this is the bit that gets me. It has to have a taste, aroma, and characteristics generally attributed to whiskey. Yeah, that's a legal definition in the States. So, how on earth do you quantify that? How on earth do you turn around and say, "Oh, well, that's a whiskey"? Because whiskey quite famously goes from light tea to stuff that's like treacle. So, there's loads of it tastes very different. I mean, the pot still from Shortcross ain't going to taste anything like, I don't know, that George Dickel. It's not going to taste anything like it. So what? I don't really understand how is that going to be legally implemented? It's just bizarre. Now, let's get down to 41, page 41. And this comes down to what you're allowed to actually put in the bottle and so on. Bourbon can be treated with caramel, but bourbon treated with caramel for colouring can only be labelled as whiskey. So you can't treat it, you can't put colouring essentially, you can't put caramel colouring into bourbon. Because then it becomes it's not bourbon then. You're not allowed to do that. Now, the difference is there are various, for example, now this would be at page 48. If you go down to page 48.
Okay, 48, it's coming up.
If you go down to the colouring, flavouring and blending materials, so under general there, okay, what it says is colour, flavouring, blending material may be used in or added to any class and or type of distilled spirit. However, the use of or addition of these may change the class or thing. For example, if you add F, D and C yellow number 5 is added to a straight bourbon whiskey, the resulting product is no longer a straight bourbon whiskey. The product is now a distilled spirit speciality and must be labelled with the statement of composition such as straight bourbon whiskey with FD and C yellow number 5 added. Now, I'm going to say that isn't going to sell that well. So basically what they're saying is no one's going to add that colouring unless they state it. So you can kind of take it that it doesn't have any colouring in it. So it can't really be, but it can be labelled as a straight bourbon whiskey, but you just have to add the colouring on the back of it. I mean, this is kind of getting to being nuts. Now, the colouring material.
Yellow number 5 is E180, the caramel colouring, is it? I think, is it?
E150A is caramel colouring, but I don't know whether FD and C yellow number 5 is that.
It's the same, yeah.
Okay. Now, if you go to page 51, now I tell you folks, this is possibly the most bored I've been with anything in whiskey in my entire life, but I kind of thought it was worth going through because these labelling things are quite
I would imagine once you get it right, you've got it right. But to stay on top of a 76-page document is going to be particularly difficult.
Well, it also covers everything from tequila to piscos to all this kind of stuff. I thought this was quite interesting. Some of the stuff you are allowed to add colouring to, depending on what it is. So, for example, you're allowed to add colouring to a blended whiskey because it's a bit more of an open book. Now, provided that the total addition of colouring, flavouring, or blending. So, say if it's in a litre, you could put in what would that be? 25 millilitres of colouring, which would be a huge amount. However, one of the colouring agents that you can use is blending sherry. So you could, in theory, have a blended whiskey that has 2.5% sherry added. So blending sherry does not exceed 2.5% by volume of the blended whiskey. These colouring and blending materials are considered harmless. Now, I think that's quite a lot. And if you were putting 25 or 2.5% sherry into a bottle, that's going to massively affect the flavour and basically improve the taste of it. So it's kind of funny. So yeah.
But who came up with this? Did the whiskey industry in America come up
No.
with this themselves, or was it in consultation with the federal?
Well, some of this stuff you just know is a hangover from pre-prohibition. We'll get to some a little bit more in a little bit minute, but that's considered harmless colouring, flavouring, or blending materials. But it's telling you there that you can put in blending sherry up to 2.5% thing. So yeah, that's quite a lot, if I'm honest. But it is what it is. Now, if you skip down to page 60.
60. Yep.
Down to page 60. Aging on labels. You could put down on it that you have stored then reused the age of the spirit. Now, it gives an example here in rum, but I mean, it applies exactly the same to whiskey. Brendan at Cologne quite famously got into trouble when he first released his first release blends because he stated that it was part this certain age from a certain area, this certain age from another area. So you're not allowed to do that in Ireland, but in the US you could put down that a whiskey was 25. Now it's here it's rum, but it's the same for whiskey. 25% 4-year-old, 35% 5-year-old, and 40% 6-year-old. You're not allowed to do that in Ireland because it has to state the youngest whiskey. But in the States, you can put down that it's a mix of different age statements. Although a statement of age is not required, the bottler elects to label the rum with an age statement that discloses the age of rum in the blend. Now, I don't think it. Fill in the blank first with the percentage of the finished product on proof gallon basis attributed to each listed distilled spirit. Listed percentages must total 100%. So basically, you can put it down as long as you put down the percentage of it. So it sort of muddies the water a little bit. Again, it's okay, it's for clarity, but in Ireland, the way it's seen is it's the youngest, and it has to be that. If, however, it's a mix of things, it still has to just go with the youngest. You can't put down that a whiskey's 4-year-old, but it contains 10-year-old whiskey. You're not allowed to do that. So that's a different thing in the States. Just, again, a bit of a strange quirk. Page 62, Justin.
62. There we go.
Yeah, so for example, a blend of straight bourbon whiskey, 5%, then plus of straight rye whiskey, 8%, rye whiskey at 10%, wheat whiskey at 12%, are used in production of a distilled spirits product that also contains neutral spirits. So you basically, if you list all of that, then you have the required age and percentage statement may appear as. So it becomes, you can put down all of what's in there, which is quite decent for transparency reasons. But you can see how you could begin to bring in a 10% whiskey aged 3.5 years, a 12% whiskey aged 3-year-old. How you could really sort of start to muddy the waters quite a bit, you know? I don't think
it's blowing
that.
my mind. There's too many variations here.
But you do understand what I mean? You could very quickly sort of muddy the water because there's a sort of defined amount of space on a label, but so you could play with that slightly to give yourself a number of different permutations.
People are only going to know this from your record keeping, but there's no way they could analyze a bottle to see if it was
Well,
exactly like
they
this.
probably couldn't. They'll not be able to analyze this, but it has to be. If you get caught doing it, then they're probably going to end up in a fairly serious legal battle with the federal government, which I
But you
don't
could
think.
end up doing it inadvertently with something as complicated as this.
But the thing is, when people talk about the technical file back home, the Irish and the Scotch technical file, this is the guideline just for labelling. It becomes so muddied that how the hell do you ever keep on top of all of this? Now, if you skip down to page 65, this is about age statements and what you're allowed to put on as regards age statements. Use of age, storage statements, and dates on labels. Is a specific age statement allowed? Is category number one. Now, if you sort of scroll down a few pages to you begin to get to whiskies, basically what we're looking at is obviously the first column tells you what it is, then the second column tells you is an age statement required or age statement allowed, and then it gives you sort of specifics.
So we've gone past the Scotch whiskies here, and here we're getting to the whiskies. There you go.
Okay, so if you go down page 66, we're on Irish. If you're on page 66 on Irish.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it is. Yes, here it is.
There you go. So, Irish whiskey, yes, a specific age statement of age is required if the Irish whiskey is less than 4 years old. Now, the Irish technical file tells you that an Irish whiskey becomes whiskey at 3 years old. But this tells you that if it's less than 4, an age statement is required. So what you can take from that is, if there's no age statement on a bottle over here, then it has to be a minimum of 4 years old. So that basically means that unless it states it, that an Irish whiskey over here is minimum of 4 years old, not 3. So that is quite a significant change.
So that means only superior Irish whiskies are really classed as Irish whiskies in America, then?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that. They can certainly send over whiskey at 3 years of age. But the thing is, they have to put it on the label, otherwise they're breaking the law. So that tells you that the likes of this is a blend. As far as I can see, doesn't tell you that it's 3 years of age. So that's a minimum of 4. It all becomes quite confusing. But it says that it has to be specific age statements must appear as conspicuously and on the same label as the miscellaneous age reference unless the blended Irish whiskey is not less than 4 years old and the miscellaneous age reference in general in nature and inconspicuous. Oh, Christ.
But Cameron's in Texas as well?
I see that.
All right.
Where's Vic at in Texas? Where are you at in Texas, my friend? Because if you're heading out west, you need to be quick, otherwise you're going to miss us.
Very good. Marty's in El Paso. Very good. Very good. Very good.
But yeah, so what I'm saying is Irish whiskey over here, unless it tells you that it's 3 years of age, is actually 4 years of it's at 4 years old. So yeah, lots of different stuff to go through. Skip through those pages that I've showed you, basically the stuff that you'd be interested in. But it's quite confusing. It's quite technical. But straight whiskey, if you see it on a thing, basically means it's at least 2 years of age and that it meets the criteria for being that whiskey. Now, the other one you'll see quite a lot of is bottled in bond. So you'll see it in this. There's a whole background as to what bottled in bond means. It means basically it's the tax have cleared it. It comes from the 1897 Bottled in Bond Act. And what that means and this fried my head earlier on this week because I read 4 or 5 different conflicting views. Bottled and bond means that it's distilled by the same distiller in the same whiskey season, of which there's 2. There's the summer and the winter season. It's 4 years old minimum. It's unaltered except for being filtered, and it's bottled at 50%. Now, I read this week that it said, "Oh no, being bottled at 4 years of age is only implied." No, it's not. It states quite clearly on the act, because I read through the whole act on it as well, that it has to be aged for a minimum of 4 years. So there's loads of people putting out bottled and bond. Well, not loads of them, but there are people putting out bottled and bond that doesn't actually meet that criteria, and it's not being enforced, which then leads to the question of what's the point? It states quite clearly in the thing that it has to be 4 years old minimum, but you see these terms being bandied about, and it sort of led me down this rabbit hole because I wanted to read this TTB or TTB catalog. It's just very complicated. I mean, the Scotch and the Irish technical file, some people think that they're complicated. Come to the States, you ain't seen nothing yet, But yeah, so there are a couple of takeaways from this. Straight whiskey basically means it's 2 years and more, meets all the criteria. Bottled and bond means that it's 4 years, it should be 4 years of age, done by the same distiller at the same season, and bottled at 50%. Irish whiskey, unless it states otherwise, has to be 4 years old over here. So, them's your onions, Justin.
What did I tell you? I can just about tell the difference between Scotch and Irish whiskey now, and that's about it. And it's only because they have a little flag in the bottle.
But yeah,
this is mind blowing stuff. Mind blowing.
Well, honestly, I mean, I have to take my hat off to the guys that are actually doing it on the labels and getting it all right, because it's to fall in between all of those little fucking slits to get all the way through those, to get all the way through to get in your bottle and thing. Really, really complicated. Really, really time consuming, and to do that with the definition, it's little wonder that there's people out there specifying exactly what it is they're doing, But yeah, it was a lot. I now have a sore head. William, welcome to my world, son.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically all I'm trying to say is whiskey in the States has to have very specific things on the labels. Some of them are a little bit grey. Straight whiskey basically just means 2 years of age and meets the criteria. Bottled and bond, it'll be 50% unadulterated from the same distillery, and it's a minimum of 4 years of age. That's basically it. There's lots and lots of different stuff in the thing. If you really want board rigid, go through the technical file for American whiskey. It's a hard read. That's why I drink, folks.
There you go, Vix at the Wizard in Whiskey Academy, and I think that is its sort of web handle, wizardacademy.org. It's in Austin, Texas. If you're into whiskey, it seems to be the place to go. If he is there, it must be.
Yeah, put it like this: if they know their stuff, if they've got Vic over, they know that worth getting them over.
I may have to rewatch the show. I tell you what, I'm not going to rewatch the show because I have a sore head just by.
But the thing about it is, you see these terms being bandied about, and whenever you actually say, "Well, hang on, what is a straight whiskey?" and you start going down this thing, it's like, Christ almighty, why would you even bother? Why would you bother trying to do this?
But
then you realise it's actually not that complicated. But then,
do you know the way I don't like to ever have the same drink twice? Right? Well, I'm not joking you. There is that many different spirits here that I'm gonna do up a pie chart and see how many of these I have tried for a laugh, and I will do it for next week on screen just give you an idea how many different types there are. I'll do a pie chart with the ones I've had and the ones I haven't had, and then I'll set a goal to try them all, but by the time I'm 50.
By the time you're 50. Doctor Who. You see who's taking the blame for the cologne? Or Brendan. But yeah, I found this the other day, batch number 1.
I got asked a question about that. Brendan was out in the Far East and all for a while doing stuff, wasn't he?
Brendan?
Was he?
He was in Australia.
He was in Australia?
As an architect.
Yeah. I thought that. No, somebody asked me, was there Korean influence in it? And I thought, Korean whiskey influence? I'd never heard that about any of Brenton's myself, but I thought that's why I'm asking you.
No, it's very much Tasmania and so on and so forth. But yeah, as I say, it's really, really complicated. But whatever, I mean, it's why you have to appreciate something like this, cologne, ticking all those boxes in order to get distribution over here. And I picked that up in a shop just around the corner from here. Well, it's 10 minutes drive, and it's like to fall under all that categories, the different things. It takes an awful lot of work. I think people have this idea that the distilleries, the guys down there, they make their whiskey, happy days, put it in a bottle and away it goes. Nah. It's not how it works. It's so much regulation, and if you don't tick this box and put this in the wrong category and such, you can't sell it. And if
not a bit of wonder there's moonshiners in America.
Yeah, it's the fact that there's so many distilleries and stuff over here is just absolutely ridiculous, But yeah, that's what it is. So I know this is a bit of a strange one tonight, guys. It's probably a bit boring, but I just wanted to tell you that's the way of the world in the States.
Oh, Vic was at Balcones.
Balcones. I still think my favorite from Balcones is the Tres Hombres, the ZZ Top bottle that I had. I just loved it. I thought the whiskey was pretty good. Really liked the association. Really liked the whole thing. But yeah, I was in Austin a couple of weeks ago, Vic. Go down to 6th Street of an evening. You see, it's a place and a half. Quite a lively little area. Yeah, went down there. I was at the Joe Rogan Comedy Club as well. So yeah, Austin's a nice place. Austin's nice. So it is.
Very nice. Catch you same time, same place next week. Wherever you get your podcasts online.
No, not the same place, Justin.
Oh, yes. Same place. Oh, you'll be back home.
I'll be back down the Glens. I'll be back down. I'll be at that stage. I might have a couple of Guinness in me because I might take myself off. I'm working this week. I've sort of busy all week. I have a whiskey tasting. There's a product launch in Framingham this week. Quite a nice one. Then I have a whiskey tasting on Friday night in Stanley's down the Go Sun.
Is it sold out?
It's sort of double sold out.
Okay.
I might need to see you about getting the end of a speaker.
Okay.
Because it's bunged to the hilt. So yeah. So all good.
All right.
And so I will be back in the promised land next week. So anyway,
safe journey home
from the States. All the best, guys. The land of the free, land of red tape,
and the home of the brave.
Home of the brave. Anyway,